All right, so the last one I want to show you, at least as far as in this string of videos, is basically with content aware. And for this, we'd also need a little bit of Photoshop to make sure things go a little bit faster. So let's say I've got this scene here, which is a movie shot in my backyard. And I'm going to, let's just go in so we can view it. And essentially, maybe I want to get rid of a section. Maybe it's this guy right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this guy, make another composition. Notice the theme. And I'm going to essentially select the area that I'm going to want to get rid of. So once again, we do a pen tool. Just going to make a little selection of this area here. Boom. This time I'm going to select my layer, I'm going to press M, and I'm just going to switch it to none for the moment. And what I want to do is I want to make sure that with that layer selected, I already have it turned on, but what you want to do is turn on Content Aware Fill. And then you'll see this little menu pop up. Now, be warned, it's a really good way of getting rid of some stuff, but it also is a way of it takes a while to process. So depending on the complexity, it can take a little while. And so I've already tried it. If I do it, it's going to be blurry, or if it's going to give me some weirdness in here. So to help it along, I want to create a reference frame that I'm going to use to fix this. And so what I'm going to do with this, I made my shape. I told my mask to be set to none. And I'm going to click Create Reference Frame. This will open this up into Photoshop. And so what I want to do in here is I'm going to use my, let's use my polygonal mask to give me a start. And I'm just going to kind of select the same kind of area to try and get rid of this. I'm going to try and leave the lighting alone. There. So with that, I'm going to go to Edit, Content Aware Fill. And you see it kind of masks this area and it's looking at this. And this is giving me a representation of what it's trying to do. So let me kind of pull this over so you can see that a little bit. Zoom in. And you can see it's doing a really good job of getting rid of these stones that are here, right? It's looking at this surrounding area and it's saying, oh, let me look at this ground and this ground over there and try to fill this area up. Now inside of here, I'm just going to do a few things. Let's zoom out a little bit because I might notice a color discoloration depending on how complex your image is. So where it says fill settings, I'm going to change it from default to very high. And that will usually clean it up. If it's too light or too dark, it'll try and really fix that. And I want to output this. It may say new layer. I want to output this to the current layer and just flatten it down. And that's really most of what I may need to do. So once I actually have that, what I want to do in my, of course, what we have here is my program is a little bit in the way. So what I want to do is I want to hit apply. So we're in here. That looks good. I'm going to hit apply. Let's zoom out a little, spacebar. And we see what that looks like. Does it look good or not? Do I need to fix anything? Now, what I may do before that, let's say I hit cancel and say, nope, not yet. And it actually did apply it, but let me undo that. And what I want to do just to make sure it doesn't give me a weird edge is I'm just with that selection. I'm going to go to modify the selection and I'm going to feather it. Let's try by about maybe 5 pixels. And that's just going to soften the edge out. And now I'll do that. Edit, content aware fill, adaptation very high. Look at that. That looks, yeah, I like that. That's better. And I flatten the current layer, apply. What does that look like? That looks much better. You see it's not as blurry. So I'm gonna hit OK. And it'll finish the process and Control D to deselect. Now, if there's anything I need to do, if I want to use my stamp tool and clean up or get rid of things or fix it, now's the time to do it. If I wanted to get rid with my healing brush of like, oh, you know what? I don't want this little thing right here or this or whatever, and just go boop and just kind of get rid of it. Now's the time to do it. Okay. And now that I have it the way I want it, I'm going to close it and say save. And what you'll notice is when I go to After Effects, it created what's called a reference frame. And if I now turn on, go to subtract, you'll see there's my image. If I hide the top, actually let's hide the bottom, turn on the top, see? There we go. So now that looks pretty good. And now that I have this information, and we're still not done yet because if I go forward, you see it just drops right out. Now, this is the part of the process that will take longer, okay? So I'm gonna, let's shrink this down to like 5 seconds. Shrink this down, the range slider. Let's bring you into 5 because the longer your clip is that you are doing it, the longer it's going to take to process. And I'm just going to right click right here and say trim comp to work area because chances are it's not going to be a clip you're going to use for the entire project. It's probably just going to be for a few seconds. So having all that extra is probably not the greatest. So that's one thing. So we cropped it down to 5 seconds and that should speed things up. And now I'm just going to say generate fill layer. And what you'll see now is that it is processing and creating a fill layer for that so that we can cover up those stones that we don't want. And I'm just going to pause the video so that it'll give it a chance to do it and then show you the result. Okay, that is just about done. And that took a few minutes. So it's not... how fast your machine is, how big the file is, all that, how long it is that you're doing it for is going to matter. But it's all done now. And what it created was the fill, and you can see that right here. So now, and it's tracking, and you can see that. So it literally made essentially this this little movie, this image sequence. For each frame, it generated its own adaptation of that file. And that's how it's actually tracking. The camera's moving a little bit, and you can see it's actually tracking with it. So that is the content fill. You do need Photoshop, and if you're doing it for, you can do it for just, if I was just doing it for a single frame, I might not have to go into Photoshop, or I could just edit it in Photoshop. But for this, this is a process, and you see that cleans up things really nicely.